Good morning, one and all. So, we will start our course, that is probability and stochastic process. So, you might be aware of the term probability already. So, the extra thing we study in this course is the stochastic process. Anyway, so what is the probability? Suppose, so in PUC courses you might have studied about these probabilities. So that is number of favorable outcomes by total outcomes. Okay. Anyway, so we'll study about this course. Before that, so this is the syllabus and the course code is, subject code is EC2204 and this is syllabus. So briefly you can go through the syllabus. And as I told you in the last class, so these are the two textbook that we follow. So the first one is Introduction to the Probability by these two authors. The next one is famous book for probability, random variables and stochastic process by these two authors. Okay. So you try to follow these two textbooks, that is more than enough. So let us begin with unit 1. So it is about, the first topic is set. What is a set? So in the last class I told you already, it is a collection of objects. Okay, and those objects are called elements of the particular set. Suppose if you take, let us take, I will take a set S, that is all positive integers. All positive integers. So this is a set containing all positive integers. Now what will happen? What the set will contain? 1, 2, 3, so on, so on, so on. So these 1, 2, 3 are called elements of the set. And you can also mention set as collection of some objects, maybe like car, apple, etc. Collection of some objects is nothing but a set, and those objects are called its elements. Now here, so here this set S contains finite number of elements, say x1, x2, so on xn. We will write it as list of elements. Here this is what we write the set. We write set S equal to the inside the brackets x1, x2, so on, so on xn. So what are they called? They are called elements of the set. Okay. Now, so you know one more thing. If any element x belongs to set S, how to denote it? X belongs to set S. If x does not belong to set S, right? X does not belongs to set S. So this is a notation to identify whether the element belongs to set S or not. Now these are typical examples we come across in PTSP, that is rolling a die and tossing a coin. If you roll a die, the outcomes are 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and if you toss a coin, the outcomes are 2, they are head and tail. Now they form a set. Okay. Now, so before proceeding further, so we have something called universal set, that is omega. Now what it contains? It contains all objects that are interested in a particular context. Okay, this is called universal set, which contains all objects that are interested in a particular context. Okay, now, so the notation is omega. Now, so for any set, we have some property. What is the property? Generally we write, so set S, we should mention like this, bracket x such that x satisfies a property, some property p. It could be any property. Okay. So in the last class I told you, if it is even number, what do you write? What is the property of even number? So it is divisible by 2, which means if you divide an even number by 2, you get integer. So what to write? So set of all integers means set x such that x by 2 is integer. x by 2 is integer. Okay, so like this you have to mention the property of a particular set. So this is how generally we denote the set. Okay, now so there is something called subset. So what do you write here? If every element of a set S is also element of set T, then we say that S is a subset of T. Suppose you can say something like this. We have a set S and set T. What do you have? We have a set S and set T. So every element of set S, this is set S, is inside set T. Then we say that S is subset of set capital T. So every element of set S is also in the set capital T. Then S is subset of T. Okay. So you know all these things already, but I am just briefly going through all these things. Okay. Now this is very very important. What I was saying is, if S is subset of T and T is subset of S, then they has to be equal. So if it is so, those two sets must be equal. There is no other alternative way. Okay, so please remember this. Okay. So this is already discussed. Yeah, so the complement of a set S is denoted by S complement. So what it contains? It contains all the elements that do not belong to S. How to define this? Set S complement is nothing but X such that X, the element, does not belongs to the set S. It contains all the elements that do not belong to this particular set S. They are called complement of the set S, that is S subscript C. Okay. Now, so before that, so we have one more set, that is called null set. So it should be a set, null set or empty set. It is also called null or empty. Which means, so it does not contain any elements inside it. A set which does not have any elements is called empty set or null set. It is denoted by this symbol. Now the complement of universal set is null set and vice versa. Okay. Now, so briefly I will discuss set operations. Now we discuss mainly two operations. What are they? So union and intersection. So what do union means? It is a set of all elements that belongs to S and T or both, denoted by S union T, or sometimes you also write as S plus T. Is also correct. S plus T also notation for the union of two events. So this is the definition we write. So X such that X belongs to S or X belongs to T. So this is very very important. So this is a mathematical way of writing S union T. So next operation would be intersection. Okay. Now we denote with S intersection T. Now what it contains? It contains all elements that belongs to both set S, set T. Otherwise it contains elements that are common to both sets. Okay. So sometimes we write this as S into T, ST. This is also one more way of writing the intersection of two sets. Okay. Here union means what do you write? S plus T. Here we write S into T. It is OR operation, this is AND operation, something like that. Now how to write this? S intersection T. X such that X belongs to S and X belongs to T. Okay. This is OR operation, this is something like AND operation. Okay. So in some cases we will have to consider union or intersection of several infinitely many sets. Okay. Anyway, this is quite simple thing. So suppose we have more than two sets. Okay, suppose we have let us take S1 intersection. Suppose we have something like this. We have something like S1 intersection S2 intersection S3. So this is intersection of three sets. In the same way, you may have S1 union S2 union S3. So the intersection and the union may be possible for infinitely many number of sets. Now this is what we write generally. Union n equal to 1 to infinity Sn is nothing but S1 union S2 union so on up to infinity. In the same way, what we can write? So S1 intersection S2 intersection S3. This intersection operation n equal to 1 to infinity. This intersection operation. Okay. Next. Now, so we'll consider few more things. So that is about set operations. Briefly I have discussed. Anyway, you might have known all these things already, but now here next. Now, so let us consider disjoint sets. What sets? Disjoint sets, or they are also called as what kind of sets? Mutually exclusive or disjoint. When they are said to be disjoint, so their intersection is empty. If the intersection of two sets is empty set, then they are said to be disjoint or mutually exclusive. Or in other words, if any two sets do not have any common elements, then they are said to be disjoint or mutually exclusive sets. Now mathematical, what do we write? So they don't have anything in common. What do you write? Suppose let us take set A intersection set B is null set. Okay, then A and B are said to be disjoint. This is the definition of disjoint sets. Now, so next thing is, so next thing is partition of a set. Now, so what is a partition of a set? Okay, so simply something like this. If you take a total set, something like this, we have taken a set S, this set. Okay, now so that is being partitioned into several other sets. Let us take A, B, this is C. Now we say that so the set omega is being partitioned into three other sets, namely A, B, C. Okay. Now the set S is being partitioned, or the set omega is being partitioned into so three other sets. It may be partitioned into any number of sets, doesn't matter. Just take this simple example. So I have a universal set omega. I want to partition this into three sets, something like this. So this is A, this is B, this is C. Now, so here, so omega is partitioned into three different sets, A, B and C. Now how these A, B, C should be? They should be what? Disjoint. First and foremost thing is all these A, B, C sets should be disjoint. Next, what next condition? Next condition. So A union B union C should be what? Omega. So we are dividing omega into three different sets. Those sets should be mutually exclusive or disjoint, and furthermore, if you take the union of all these three sets, you must get your set, that is omega. That is called partition of the set. So same thing is being written here. So in the collection are disjoint and their union is S. Suppose if this is set S, for example, if take this, you can take this set S, let us take. Now set S is being partitioned into three different sets A, B, C. How they should be? Disjoint. Now if you take union of all these, you should get S. Okay. Now this is about Venn diagram. So anyway, you might have seen all these things already. But here, so this is common area or common elements belongs to both S and T. So this region indicates what region? S intersection T. That is a Venn diagram for S intersection T. Now in this second example, so what does this represent? What does this represent? So this is, this area represents, so it represents elements belongs to S as well as T. It belongs to S and T or both. So simply it is union of two events or two sets, S union T. Now this is about Venn diagram of disjoint sets. They are disjoint. Why? Because they do not have anything in common. All three sets do not have anything in common. So here what condition you can write? S intersection T intersection U is nothing but what set? Null set. If it is so, they are disjoint. But they do not form what? Partition. They are not being partitioned. Why? Because what is the reason? S union T union U is not equal to omega. So they are disjoint, but they are not partitioned sets. So for these three set to be partitioned, what a condition? S union T union U should be equal to omega. But so if you add these three, you won't get omega, because you have a what? You have something empty space also. Correct? So this space won't be covered in the union of three sets. So simply they are disjoint, they are not partitions. Now, so what is this region indicates? This region. What does it indicates? Only this region. Only this portion. I am talking about this portion only. What does it indicate? It simply says only S. Okay. So that is given by S intersection T complement. Yeah. So this is a partition. So this omega is partitioned into three different sets S, T, U, because so they are mutually exclusive or disjoint. At the same time, the union of these three sets is omega. Okay, they form a partition set of omega. Now what the last Venn diagram says? What it says? What is this shaded region? I am asking about this region. So that is nothing but S complement. This region is nothing but S complement. Here furthermore, T is subset of S, because every element of T is also element of S. Okay. So these are some typical Venn diagrams. You can search for a few more Venn diagrams. So it is not a big deal. Now, so let us see some algebra of sets. Now, so the elementary consequences of definition, some examples. So here S union T is same as T union S. What it is called? Commutative property. Now what this property called? S union T union U equal to, this bracket is here, S union T union U. What it is called? Associative property. So this union obeys commutative and associative property. Okay. Next. So these are a few more algebras. S intersection T union P equal to S intersection T union S intersection P. Okay. Next. So S union T intersection P equal to S union T intersection S union P. Okay. Now, so this is very important. What is S complement complement? That is S. What is S intersection S complement? What is that? It should be null set because we are finding. So simply I am asking what is S intersection its complement. So what is the common elements between S and S complement? So they do not have anything in common, obviously, right? Because S complements are mutually exclusive. Obviously it is a null set. Okay. This is also very important. So S union omega is omega. What is omega? What is this omega? This is a universal set. So S union omega is omega. S intersection omega is S. Okay, these are some typical elementary operations or elementary algebra of the sets you must know. Yeah. So we have something called De Morgan's law. So you might be knowing this De Morgan's law already. So suppose if I write something like this. Suppose what is A intersection B whole complement? What do you write here? That is A complement intersection B complement. Correct? Suppose if I do reverse, which means A union B complement. If I write so, what do you mean by this? A complement. Sorry, here I had a mistake. So this should be what? Yeah, so this should be union. Here it should be intersection B complement. So these are called De Morgan's laws. Okay. Now, so I have written this law for two sets AB, and we have written for what? Intersection and union. What happened here? So this is intersection becomes union, union becomes intersection, and furthermore the sets are being complemented. Here we have AB, here we have A complement, B complement. Here also A complement, B complement. So the sets will be complemented and the intersection and union will be interchanged. So this is for two sets. If I write for so many sets, this is what the law. So if I write for three sets, what do you write? So if I go for three sets, what do you write? Suppose if I ask you, what is A union B union C whole complement? What do you write? A complement intersection B complement intersection C complement. Okay. Suppose if it is A intersection B intersection C whole complement, what do you write? A complement intersection B complement. Sorry. So A complement union B complement union C complement. Okay. Now, so here same thing is being written, but it is for so many number of sets. So union becomes intersection, and the sets will be complemented. So these are two De Morgan's laws for so many number of sets. Okay. Now, so let us go to the probabilistic model. So here when you talk about probability of experiment, you come across a term called sample space. Here the sample space also denoted by omega. So earlier we have denoted universal set with omega. So here sample space also denoted with omega. Okay, so there won't be much difference in the notation of the sample space and the universal set. Anyway, what is sample space means? It is a set of all possible outcomes of an experiment. Okay, so in the probability we conduct random experiments and we take all possible outcomes and they are called sample space. So now, yeah, so this is a probability law anyway. Yeah, so after sample space we have something called event. What is event? A subset of the sample space is called event. Okay, a subset of the sample space is called event. Now we assign probabilities to the events. We assign probabilities to the events. So let me take simple example. Okay, suppose, so here we have conducted an experiment. Let us take. Okay, it can be any experiment. So let me take most generalized example. What is that? Tossing a coin. What is that? Tossing a coin. So if you toss a coin, so what are the possible outcomes? Two. Either you may get head or you may get a tail. So what is sample space? Sample space is nothing but set of all possible outcomes. They are head and tail. Okay. Now the sample space. Now I want to know events. What are events? What is event first of all? Subset of sample space. So this is a sample space. Now I want to know events. What are those events? Tell me. What are the subsets of this sample space, or what are the events? Events are like this. You may get head. So you may get tail. That is, you know already. These three things is known to everyone. But so here we can also write null set is also a subset. Okay, and you can also write H comma T. So these are 4 events. Okay, now we have 4 possible events. These 4 are subset of this sample space. Okay, so don't think that only 2 are subsets. Generally people think that only, so these 2 are events. No, this can be event, this can be also event. Okay, so for every sample space this null set is a event, or for every sample space this is a subspace or subset. Okay, now here, so in the sample space we have how many elements? How many outcomes are there? 2. Here how many subsets or events? 4. In general, number of events equal to 2 power n. n equal to 2, so 2 power 2 is 4. You got 4 subsets or 4 events. Now, so anyway, this is about events. Now, so let us go to the probability law. What actually happens? Generally, so for these events we assign probability. For these events we assign probability. So let me write events here. Events are head, tail, null set and head and tail. Now, so for these events we assign probability. Probability of getting head, probability of getting tail, so probability of getting null set, so the probability of getting head and tail, something like that. Okay, Now this is simply the probability model. So if you talk in general, so we have an experiment. So if you conduct experiment, you get some outcomes, correct? So all possible outcomes are called what? Sample space. We call omega. So from the sample space we get events. What are events? Events are nothing but subsets of sample space. For these events we assign probability. So this is a typical diagram for probabilistic model. Okay, you must know these things properly. This is what happens in the probabilistic model. Okay. Yeah. Now before that, so different elements of a sample space should be distinct and mutually exclusive. So what I want to say is, all these elements of a sample space, so they must be unique. Okay. And what is the next condition I told you? Yeah. So they are collectively exhaust. So mutually exclusive and collectively exhaust. Okay. So let me take simple example, the known example. So sample space, suppose let us take another example, rolling a die. So what are the possible outcomes? Okay. Now this is sample space. So here the elements in the sample space must be unique. At the same time they are collectively exhaust, which means, suppose for example, if I remove this 6, if I remove this number 6 from the sample space, what would happen? Okay, what would happen? So the sample space does not contain all possible outcomes of a rolling a die. Okay, which means, so if we conduct an experiment, the outcome must be within the sample space. Okay, so if you write 1 to 5, it is not a sample space because it is not collectively exhaust, which means it does not contain all possible outcomes of a sample space. Even though all the elements of a sample space are unique, but they are not collectively exhaust, which means, so if you roll a die, you may get 6, but it is not there in the sample space. Okay, so that's why the sample space should be, the elements of a sample space should be mutually exclusive and collectively exhaustive. Okay. Right. Yeah. So now sample space could be these types. It could be countable, uncountable. In countable, it could be finite, infinite. Okay. Now, so let us discuss briefly about these three or four types of sample spaces. Now, generally, so countable sample space. Just now I have taken two examples. What are they? Coin experiment and rolling a die experiment. So in coin experiment, what is sample space? Has got how many elements? 2 elements, head and tail. Okay. In a die experiment, it has got how many? 6. Now this is finite sample space because it has got 6 elements, it has got 2 elements. This comes under finite sample space. So the next type is, this is, let us take type 1. So the next type is countable infinite. What next type? In countable we have done with finite. In countable we have infinite. Countable infinite. What do you mean by that? Suppose you take any sample space. It could be anything. Suppose sample space could be some, let us take all integers. It must be all integers. Now what do you write? All integers means what do you write? So you can go from plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2, plus or minus 3, so on so on. Okay. Now so this is countable, but how many such elements are there? Infinity. Okay. So in this example of sample space, we can count them, but they are infinite in number. They are called countable infinity. Countable infinity. What they are called? Countable infinity. So otherwise, we can able to list them. We can able to write all the elements of a sample space as a list. This is a list, correct? So this is all integers as a list. Okay. So we could able to enumerate them as a list, or we can able to represent them as a list. But so they are infinite in number. That's the meaning of countable infinity. Okay, that is another type of sample space. Now what is the last one? Uncountable. Okay, let us see what is that. So before going for uncountable, so let me briefly tell you few more examples. Uncountable, I will discuss little bit later. Now, so before that, so let me take a die. So till now you might have known a six-sided die. What sided? Six-sided or six faces or six-faced. Okay, but here this is four-sided die, or also called as D4 die. It is something like a pyramid. Okay, it has got only four outcomes. In this present scenario, the outcome is what? 4. You may get 1, 2, 3 also. Here, so what is the sample space of this rolling a die? Not 6, only 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. Only 4 elements are possible because it is a 4-sided die, something like this. Okay. Now, suppose if I roll D4 die 2 times, what is sample space? Okay, what I am asking here is, so if I roll sample space of a D4 die, if rolled 2 times, okay, first of all, how many elements are possible? How many such elements are there in sample space? How many? 16. What are they? Can you guess? What are they? 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4. 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4. So on, so on, so on, so on, so on. Okay. Suppose if it is a six-faced die or six-sided die, the sample space would have contained how many elements? 36. Since it is a four-faced die, it has got only 4 square, 16 elements. Had it been six-faced die, it would have got 6 square, that is 36 elements in a sample space. Okay. Now this is sample space. This is a grid indicating the sample space. First roll, second roll. This point indicates 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 2, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 3, 1, 3, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 4, 1, 4, 2, 4, 3, 4, 4. This is a sample space of a rolling a D4 die 2 times. Now, so this is the sample space. How many elements are there? How many? 16. Why 16? Because it is only 4 sided die. Now, so let us take one more example. So throwing a dot on a target and viewing the point of impact as outcome. So it is called dot. Okay. So you might have seen this already. It is called dot. Now what happens here? So when you throw the dot on the target, it may hit here. It may hit here. Okay. Or next time you throw dot on the target, it may hit here. It may hit here. Now, so what is the outcome? The point of impact. This point is outcome. Okay. Now next time you may hit somewhere here. Next time you hit somewhere here, somewhere here, somewhere here. Okay. Now, so if you want to write the point of impact as outcome or as a sample space elements, what would happen? They are nothing but uncountable sample space. You never know where you hit exactly. You cannot measure it because there are infinite number of points are possible. And furthermore, you cannot write all those points as a list. Okay. It is not possible to write all the points of impact as a list. So that's why we say that this is a uncountable sample space. It has got uncountable sample space. Okay. Now, so let us briefly discuss something called algebra. What is this algebra is? What is this algebra is? Now here let me take, so this is a sample space. This is a sample space. Sigma is sample space. Next. Now, so F naught is what? Collection of subsets of sample space. So please make note of this. F naught is collection of subsets of sample space. Okay. Now, F naught is said to be an algebra. Okay. Here we have two things to remember. This is a sample space. Now what is F naught? Collection of subsets of sample space, and that F naught is said to be algebra if condition 1. What condition? This is null set belongs to the F naught. Next. A belongs to F naught, that implies A complement also belongs to F naught. Okay. Next. So A belongs to F naught and B belongs to F naught, that implies A union B also belongs to F naught. Now, so this is very important. What does algebra means? Closed under finite union and finite intersection, contains only finite unions of subsets. Okay, I'll explain with a simple example. Okay, first of all, so I want to know what you mean by algebra. Okay, so we denote with F naught. Correct. Now first and foremost thing is we have omega, sample space, and what is F naught? It contains subsets of omega. Now let me take omega as a real line. Omega is a real line. Okay. Now let me take this F naught as some elements. Maybe you can take phi and the entire omega, and you can take some other subset. I have taken three things. What are they? Omega is nothing but all real numbers. 1 to infinity you can take all real numbers, 0 to infinity. Okay. Now what is f naught? It is subsets of omega. Omega is all real numbers. I have taken 3 subsets. What are they? What are they? Null set. This is null set. I told you already. Null set is always subset of any sample space. This is, I have taken all real numbers, which means I have taken omega itself. Okay. Now what is this? All real numbers except 1. Okay. Now, so is it algebra or not? The question is it algebra or not? That is the question we want to answer. Now what it should satisfy? What properties? What the first word says? So this phi naught should belong to f naught. What the first condition says? This is null set should belong to f naught. Yes, it is there. Okay. If this null set belongs to f naught, what is the complement of null set? What is that? Entire sample space. What is this omega? IR, I mean real line. Okay. So the complement of this null set is sample space of null set is complement of null set is sample space. But what is sample space? Real number, real line. So if this null set is inside f naught, its complement should be also inside f naught, which means if null set is inside f naught, this real line also should be inside the f naught, which means so null sets and its complement is also inside the f naught. Okay. So simply by looking at these two conditions, we can say that it is a sigma algebra. Algebra. Now, what do you mean by this? Closed under finite union and finite intersection. What do you mean by this? This is a condition. If A belongs to f naught and B belongs to f naught, A union B also belongs to f naught, which means we say that okay, it is closed under finite union, which means the union of these two is also inside the f naught. That is the meaning of closed under. Okay. Here you can also write simply, you can also write from this only, you can also further write A intersection B also belongs to f naught, which means so it is closed under union and intersection. Closed under means so A union B lies inside f naught, A intersection B also lies inside f naught. That is the meaning of closed under. But here only thing is it contains only finite unions of subset. Okay, it contains only finite unions of subset. Here f naught contains how many subsets? 3. Okay, it should only contain finite unions of subsets. Okay, in this example, what I have taken is it contains only 3 subsets. Okay, that is about algebra. Now we have something called sigma algebra, the next version. So it has got only some minor differences. Let me tell you what are those differences. So yeah, this is called sigma algebra if what a condition? Yeah, condition first one is same, second one also same. Yeah. Now here, so the only change is this finite unions of subsets. Here it is defined for any number of subsets. Here you can take so A1, A2, so on, so on, A infinity is countable collection of subsets in F. Then so here in this example, only thing is for sigma algebra, this f naught may contain any number of subsets. It may contain infinite number of subsets. That is called sigma algebra. Algebra means this F naught should contain only finite number of subsets. That is the only difference. Okay. Now measure. So we measure. Yeah. So one more thing. It is called F. F naught means algebra. F means sigma algebra. The difference is it is defined for finite number of unions of subsets, but it can take infinite number of union of subsets. You can simply observe here. It is taking union of how many subsets? Infinity. I varies from a to where 1 to infinity. So it may take A1, A2, so on, so A infinity. Any number of subsets. But here finite unions of subsets. Now, so we see something called measure function mu. What are we measuring? We are measuring so f over 0 to infinity. Okay, so it is not much important, but you just try to understand this. Measure of null set is 0. Why? Because in null set there are no elements at all. So if you measure also, you get 0. Correct? Yeah. So this is very, very important. I have taken disjoint sets. Disjoint means mutual exclusive, which means sets which do not have any common elements is called disjoint sets. Now, if you measure anything of these disjoint sets, so this is the simple logic. Okay. Now, so it is equivalent of measuring individual elements. Okay. So we'll come to know these things later, but just try to understand this now itself. Yeah. So we can measure something. What we are measuring? We are measuring over sample space over sigma algebra. We are measuring some values. Okay. Yeah. So they are not now. So when this is called probability. Yeah. So the measure of the sample space is 1. Then we call the probability measure. Okay. Yeah. So now this is called probability measure. Why? Because you know already probability means it always lies between two values. What are they? 0 less than or equal to, p less than or equal to, probability less than or equal to 1. Probability will be always non-negative. It can be 0, maximum it can be 1. It can never be more than 1, you know already. Okay. Now, so the probability of null space is 0, obviously. The probability of universal set is 1, or the probability of sample space should be 1. Yeah. So it is also, if the sets are disjoint, this is very, very important. Okay. So probability of union of disjoint sets is equal to sum of probabilities of those disjoint sets. Okay. So you try to understand this carefully. This is very, very important. Now, so we will study some probability axioms. Now we will come into probability now. Axioms. Okay. So you know all these things already, but I will briefly go through them. Probability is always non-negative. Okay. Yeah. Additivity. If A and B are two disjoint events, then the probability of their union satisfies what? P of A union B equal to P of A plus P of B. Okay, that is also very, very important. Yeah. So this I have taken for only two events. You can take for more than two events also. A1, A2, so on, so on. Probability of A1 union A2 union A3, so on is same as probability of A1 plus probability of A2, so on. Now this is normalization property. What it says? The probability of sample space should be obviously 1. That is the maximum probability you can get. Now here, so we'll find some probabilities of these events. What is the problem? So consider an experiment involving a single coin toss. So for that we have to find the probabilities. Okay, so let me go to the probabilities. I told you already, but I will briefly discuss here also. Tossing a coin, experiment. Now, so here simply tossing a coin. So what is sample space? You may get head, you may get tail. So what are events? Just now I told you. Events. How many? 4. What are they? Head, tail, and null space, or null set, or empty set, head and tail. Okay. Now, so if it is a fair coin, what is the probability of getting head and probability of getting tail? What is that? 1 by 2. 1 by 2. So for these events, see, remember, so this is experiment and this is sample space. I told you already. The main important things in the probability model. This is events. These are events. Now for these events, we assign probability. Okay. Now if it's a fair coin, I am assuming a fair coin. Fair coin means, what do you mean by fair coin? A coin in which the probability of getting head is same as tail, that equal to 1 by 2. Now you know already what the probability of getting head is same as probability of getting tail is same as 0.5. What is the probability of this null set? 0. Isn't it? Okay. So you should be very specific. You should write like this. We are assigning probabilities to events. Okay. Finally, what is the probability of getting head and tail? What is that? This should be 1. Okay. So head and tail is nothing but what? Omega. You can also further write this as, so let me write it properly here. So the probability of first event head, getting head, equal to the probability of getting tail. Both are same, that is 0.5. And the probability of null set is anyway 0 because it has got no elements inside it. Finally, what is the probability of head and tail? Before that, what is this head and tail? Omega. So simply I can say that is omega. So that is omega equal to what? 1. You can clearly see. So it satisfies all axioms of probability. It is called normalization. So the probability is always non-negative. So the probability of null set is 0. Okay. Now, so that is about, yeah. So next example, let us consider involving 3 coin tosses. Now, in this next example, we are tossing the coin how many times? 3 times. 3 coin tosses. Okay. So now what are the elements of a sample space? First of all, how many elements are there in sample space? 8. What are they? Any guesses? You may get 3 heads. You may get 3 tails. Okay. I hope you can write all remaining elements. Can you write down? I leave it to you. Now, so next is, this is sample space. Next we have define events. We have define events. Events is nothing but a subset of a sample space. Remember this. Now let me define an event. What I define is, event A I am defining like this. Exactly 2 heads occurs. Tell me the possible events, outcomes of events. So if I toss a coin 3 times, I want to know exactly 2 heads occur. What are those possibilities? Head, head, tail. Next, tail, head, head. Next, 2 heads. H, tail, head, tail, H. Any other possibility? Now the event A has got 3 elements. But here, so how many elements are there in this sample space? 8. Okay. Now, so before that, now what's the probability of, let us assume that all are equiprobable. We are getting 8 outcomes, all are equiprobable, and what is the probability of getting 3 heads? How much? Equiprobable means 1 by 8. So the probability of getting 3 heads, 3 tails, all elements of the sample space are equiprobable means, so the probability of each and every element is 1 by 8. You know what I mean by equiprobable, or equally likely. Okay. Now, but in the event A, I have only 3 elements. So I want to find out what is the probability of A. Now I should find out probability of head, head, tail plus probability of tail, head, head plus probability of head, tail, head. Since all are equiprobable, what happens? So the probability of this one is 1 by 8. It is also 1 by 8. It is also 1 by 8. Which means 1 by 8 plus 1 by 8 plus 1 by 8, that is 3 by 8. Okay. Suppose if I ask a simple question. So another event, I will define another event B. So getting 3 heads. What is the probability? First of all, getting 3 heads means how many possibilities are there? Only 1. So what is the probability of B now? It equal to 1 by 8. Correct? Like this you have to follow. Follow the steps. First experiment from this sample space, from these events, from this probability. So this is the flow diagram we use in the probability model. You take any experiment, this is to be followed. Events, not even events. Okay. Next. Now, actually these are discrete models. Till now we discussed only discrete model. Why? Because outcomes are discrete in number. You know what a discrete means? No, we can able to count them. Okay, counting numbers, something like counting numbers. Yeah, so there is one more example. Consider experiment of a rolling a 4-sided die. We assume the dice are fair. You solve this third example, 1.3. You solve yourself. Okay, let us see what you get. Yeah, so continuous models. Now they are different from discrete models. Okay. So now here we cannot define single element. Why? Because in the discrete model we have defined single elements. Okay, you can take all these examples. I have defined single element. This is single element. This is a single element. In the discrete model, single elements may occur or may be defined. But in continuous model, so the single element events may not be sufficient. Okay, so let me go back to the example here. Let me go to the events. How many events are there? 1, 2, 3 I have taken. So this is single element event. This is also single element event. It is also single element event. Now these are enough to show the probability loss. But here if you go to continuous, single element events are not enough to or sufficient to characterize the probability law. We cannot take single elements. We should take continuous range of elements because it is a continuous model. Okay. Yeah. Now, so let me take this simple example. So Ramu and Raju have a meeting at a given time and each will arrive at a meeting place with a delay of between 0 to and 1 hour, with all pairs of delays being equally likely. The first to arrive will wait for 15 minutes and will leave. So what is the probability that they will meet? Here the question is, so what is the probability that they will meet? Probability that they will meet. Okay. Now, so this comes under continuous model. Why? Because so they will arrive at meeting place with a delay between 0 and 1 hour. So you take simple logical thinking. Suppose so you may come at, let us take Ramu, you may come at let us take 110. Okay, Raju may come at 115 or maybe 116, 117. Okay, here so if you take all these values, they come under continuous model. Okay, so a delay between 0 and 1 hour, I mean delay of 1 hour means it contains 60 minutes. Okay, so if you take all those things into consideration, it comes under continuous model. Okay. Here, so let us solve this problem. You try to write this problem in your notes. Let me solve this problem. Now, here what happens? So let me take a simple diagram. This is x, this is y. Okay, x and y. Now here we will write this square 0 to 1. What does it indicate? Delay. Delay may be from 0 to 1 hour. From 0 to 1 hour, which means both may come at same time without any delay. So which means they are coming simultaneously. Okay, or maximum they can have a delay of what? 1 hour. So between arrival of Raju and Ramu, there can be a delay of 0 to maximum of 1 hour. This indicates delay of 0, delay of 1. Which means, so now what they are asking is, what a question? Yeah. The first to arrive will wait for 15 minutes and will leave. So the first person arrives and wait for 15 minutes and they will leave. He will leave. Okay, and we have to find out what the probability that they will meet. Okay, what a condition. First of all, what will happen? What do you write? First of all, what is the thing you should write? What is the event here? So this is sample space, some kind of sample space. Now what event we are looking for? Okay, so let me define event M, which says that x comma y, think of it, when they will meet, so when they will meet, so the arrival of Rama and Raju is within the 15 minutes, which means, so mod of x minus y should be 1/4 hour. 1/4 hour means 15 minutes, where x is 0 to 1 and y also 0 to 1. This is the event. Okay, where, so the difference between the arrival of Raju and Ramu should be less than or equal to 1/4 hour or 15 minutes. So if they arrive within the 15 minutes of each other, they will meet, otherwise they won't meet. Now since it is a continuous, so we should take this kind of graphs. Okay, so don't worry, I will solve few more problems of this kind. So what is that indicates? What is that area? This is the area. This is event M. What is this point? 1/4. What is this point? 1/4. Okay, so we have to find out this area. So for this event, we have to find a probability, right? What is the probability of this event M? But so to find out a probability, we go for something called area. In which case? Continuous case. If it is discrete, we don't have any problem. If it is continuous, we should go for area kind of thing. So we have to find out this area. Can you tell me what is that area? First of all, we have this square. What is the area of the square? Length is 1, height also 1. I mean, both are 1. Area of the rectangle, square is 1. And we have two right angle triangles. This triangle and this triangle. Okay, same triangles, equal triangles. You find out area of this triangle, triangle T1, triangle T2. You subtract these two areas of triangles. 1 minus, let me write here, how to get that area? 1 minus T1 plus T2. What do you get? If you do so, you will get area of this space. Okay, so find out the entire square area, that is 1, and subtract area of this triangle and this triangle. You get area of this space or this shaded region, that give you the probability that both Ramu and Raju will meet each other. Okay, so you don't worry. So I will try to solve more problems of this kind. But remember, so when we go for continuous case, we take this area to find out probability. Okay. Anyway, so stop here. Thank you.